Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar, How Pfizer Used Analytics to Create a Cold Data Strategy and Accelerate Cloud Data Migration. When you joined today's webinar, you selected Join, either by phone call or computer audio. If for any reason you would like to change your selection, you can do so by accessing your audio pane in your control panel. Also from this control panel, you'll have the opportunity to submit questions to all of our presenters by typing your questions into the question pane. Please make sure you do so throughout the presentation, and we'll answer all those questions at the end. Any questions we don't get to, we'll collect and follow up after today's presentation. The recording of the webinar will be available about a week after the conclusion of this presentation, so keep an eye out for that email. My name is Caitlin Posell. I lead our Global Strategic Alliance with AWS from here at Komprise, and I will be your host and moderator for today's webinar. So we have a bit of a standard disclaimer here. I'll leave this here for folks to read and we'll move on. So we'll leave this here for about 5 or 10 seconds. And then we'll get into the really exciting stuff, which is introducing the people who are joining me today. So first off, we have Anthony Fiore, who's the Senior Migration Solution Architect from Amazon Web Services. Hey, Anthony.
Hey, Caitlin.
Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here. Thanks so much.
And we also have Matt Bronstein, Director of Hosting Data Services from Pfizer.
Yeah, hello, and thank you.
Hey, Matt, so thankful to have you joining here today. And Matt, before we get started, I want to acknowledge the incredible role that Pfizer has played in the last year and a half of our lives. It's been tough for everybody, and we're so appreciative of the work that you all put together. And we're here to focus on your cold data strategy, but I couldn't let it pass to just say a really big thank you. Thank you for the work Pfizer did, and thanks for being here with us.
Thank you, Caitlin. I appreciate it. It's been a very challenging yet rewarding time to work here, so I appreciate it.
I love that. So looking forward to what we're going to talk through today, we've introduced our wonderful speakers that are joining me. We're really going to talk through the Komprise and Pfizer story. We're going to talk about the challenge that Matt was facing while building out this cold data strategy, the solution that he was able to put together, combining the powers of Komprise intelligent data management with Amazon S3, as well as the future. What does that look like? What's the future value of the data? We'll answer any questions that came in and then certainly talk about next steps. So we're going to start here by sort of summarizing, Matt, looking at what the last year has looked like with this cold data strategy. Pfizer's been able to migrate 2 petabytes to Amazon S3 storage in the last year. And is this right, Matt, that you guys saw a cost reduction of 75% using Komprise to drive that strategy?
Yes, so we're 2 petabytes in counting daily. And yes, for our cold data, we've achieved over a 75% cost reduction on that data.
I love numbers like that. It's always so nice. I love bringing those to management. Those always make you feel good.
Yeah,
so,
me too.
When we look at the challenge here, we're here to talk about a pretty amazing project you've been working on, Matt, a cold data strategy that's evolved into cloud data migration to AWS. Those 3 words put a lot of fear into people, cloud data migration. But let's start at the beginning. So Matt, talk us through your role at Pfizer.
Okay, so I'm the Director of Hosting Data Services. So I'm the product or service owner for storage, data protection, and disaster recovery.
Awesome. And talk to me about just the sheer amount of unstructured data you have under management.
Sure. From an unstructured data perspective, we have about 10 petabytes of unstructured data here at Pfizer.
10 petabytes is a big number. Did you have any idea when you took on this cold data strategy how much of that data was going to be involved?
Yeah, we didn't at first, but certainly due to a predecessor program, we knew that about 64% of our data hadn't been accessed in approximately 2 years or more, and that's what we here at Pfizer define as cold data.
And that's a lot of data sitting in expensive storage that hasn't been touched in that 2-year time frame. Do you have any idea how much that data has been growing? I can't imagine it's been stagnant.
Oh, certainly not. Our data footprint overall has been growing, and especially with COVID research and development and other vaccine development, our data growth rate has been exponential if you look at it year over year.
Yeah, and exponential data growth is a challenge we hear from nearly all of our customers, Matt. So, who are the people you provide a service to that are really generating that data?
So, my customer base is all of the colleagues here at Pfizer. So both from a research and development, manufacturing, sales, and all the other supporting services that come together to deliver the products.
I can only imagine how complex that storage environment ends up looking also. I mean, I can't imagine, is it single vendor? I have to imagine you've got multiple players and lots of sites to manage.
Oh, certainly. We're in every market, 6 out of 7 continents, and certainly we have a couple major players in our storage environment, but it certainly is a heterogeneous environment. Many different generations, different vendors, and also Pfizer does a lot of acquisition and divestiture type activities too. So a lot of different storage out at a lot of different sites.
Yeah, so you've really painted this picture, Matt. I mean, you had 10 petabytes of data. It's growing exponentially. You knew at least 64% of it had to be cold. You have a ton of different vendors across 6 of 7 continents. So, what was really your vision? What was your vision for this data that was going to get pulled into this cold data strategy?
Yeah, really the vision is as Pfizer, transforms, and we've been going through, in addition to the COVID crisis, we've also been going through a company transition. So as we look at this footprint, really what we're trying to do is make sure that we host, the data in the correct way based on data, right? Data-driven decision making. So instead of just throwing high performant, high availability, we look at the data profiles and decide to host it in the area that's most appropriate due to the data profile that we gather via the analytics. That's really
Absolutely.
that's really what our vision is for this data, right? To be smart about it.
Putting the right data in the right place. I absolutely hear that. So, what I really love about that, Matt, and Anthony, I'm actually going to call you in here. This sounds so familiar to me from the Komprise end of things. We see this same exponential growth of unstructured data across heterogeneous data centers for tons of verticals: health and life sciences, media and entertainment, financial services, higher education. I mean, you name it. You work with a ton of customers across the globe at this enterprise level. Is that something you're hearing as well?
We are, yes, and not even just enterprises. It just seems to be a very consistent trend of unstructured data growth, just becoming more and more challenging, and a lot of different ways they now have to look at different ways of solving that problem to manage this growth, right? We can't just keep adding disk shells. That's not a sustainable solution.
Absolutely. Well, and Matt had a really good point talking about, they're in 6 out of 7 markets globally, and they have so many different vendors. And we have a lot of customers that come forward and they don't have a single solution that can help them look into every single one of those pieces. Is that common?
In terms of just being able to just not have that single tool. Yes, it is quite common. Although not anymore, not with Komprise, right? So Komprise does help very, very much there.
I love that. Yeah. And that's really what we're trying to help our customers find is find efficiency, and ultimately efficiency can result in cost savings. Like Matt mentioned, the 75% on cold data, with what a strong number, that's just so wonderful to see that impact. So what we're really talking about is a data-driven way to globally manage dynamic unstructured data across a lot of times hybrid environments. And Anthony, I think this is really where Amazon S3 comes into play, because you guys are a really big part of the solution that Pfizer has implemented with their cold data strategy. And I'd love if you'd just kind of talk through why customers have chosen Amazon S3 as the landing place for their data.
I'd be happy to, and it really boils down to a couple of really key, few key points. First and foremost is security. AWS security is job zero here, and we provide customers a large amount of tooling and services available to help customers keep their data as secure as they need it to be. The second is durability. 11 nines of durability is really a great thing when you're talking about having a safe place to store your data. We consistently look at ways at building and keeping our customers' trusts of where they store their data. So having a safe and secure place to store that is paramount. Another nice part about it is you pay as you go. It's all pay for what you use. So whether you use a petabyte of data or if you use a terabyte of data, you're only paying for what you need and for what you consume. So you don't have to worry about those upfront capital expenditures, being able to worry about things like how much overhead do I need to forecast for growth. All that kind of goes away. And then lastly, the other really nice thing about S3 is that it really provides that foundation. I always like to call it it's the water in the data lake sometimes, right? And it really helps customers build upon some of our other native services that they can make use of. Some of our analytics services like Athena or QuickSight, or some of our more advanced AI and ML services. All those can integrate very seamlessly with S3, and when you take that with Komprise, now it helps customers really start to think about how they can unlock the value of that cold data that's out there, since it's being transferred in native file format.
Anthony, you said something really nice there, which I just want to underline, which is unlocking the value of your data. Because what's really wonderful about all of this data showing up in Amazon S3 in native format when it's moved by Komprise is it's exposed to all these potential capabilities on the S3 interface, which is really going to allow companies to transform their business and the value of that data through its life cycle.
Absolutely, and they don't need to pull it back to on-prem. I mean, they can if they want to through Komprise, but they can just spin this up in AWS and keep it there. So it's a win-win.
Absolutely. Well, and data in AWS is powerful, but we got to get it there first, right?
Correct. Yep.
And this is really where Komprise comes in. We really break down to three really simple pillars: know first, move smart, take control. Matt, you've kind of told us about, and you've really insisted upon the value that analytics contributed to kicking off this cold data strategy. And what you needed was visibility. What was it that really set Komprise apart? I'm sure you reviewed a lot of technologies when you were looking at this program. What set Komprise apart from the others?
Yeah, really what in my mind sets Komprise apart from other tools that I've looked at is really the end-to-end process of moving this data out and analyzing it. So I've had plenty of products that could scan metadata and do analysis. I've had plenty of migration tools. What I haven't had is a tool that allows you to scan, get that metadata, then create business rules, and then act automatically in an automated way against those business rules. So it's really an end-to-end life cycle. And then lastly, the ability to recall that data. And really, my program success criteria, so one of them was that if we do move data out and our scientists, our lab workers need to move that data back in, that they don't even realize they're doing it, right? And that is one of the key features that's really made our program here at Pfizer successful.
That's awesome. And I think, Matt, you just brought that up so nicely about the move smart strategy. It is about having that knowledge first, using data about your data to get it to the right place. But you mentioned this transparent archive, which is we can't disrupt what those researchers are doing on a day-to-day basis. We don't want to interrupt what applications are doing on a day-to-day basis. And that's been nice that that's kind of come to fruition and that's working live in action at Pfizer, because we invest a lot in those symbolic links that we leave behind so that those users aren't disrupted. And Anthony, there's a third piece of this, which is this arrives in native format in AWS, which not only, is all exposes that data to all the potential capabilities on Amazon S3, but it also means that that customer has direct access to that data. They're never locked out of it by Komprise. Is that a concern that you see replicated across a lot of your customers?
Yes, and I think sometimes because customers are used to either having data moved in proprietary formats or requiring some kind of front end, it's something that it actually takes a little time to get used to, right? Because they're not used to that. They're saying, so the fact that there's no appliance to front end the ability to access this data or something else, yeah, it provides a lot of value and really starts to I start to see the wheels turning in customers. With customers when I start talking to them and they start thinking about some of the possibilities of this, because I always liken it to back in the day when we would just have vaults filled with tapes. What if you could take all the data on those tapes and actually be able to do something with it, right? Rather than just have it sit in the vault and collect dust and hope you never have to use them, right? This is very different scenario than say the old school archival days.
I love that. That's really well said, Anthony. And with all this discussion of Komprise's analytics and platforms, I'd love to walk you guys through a demo. We'll get back to the business and operational outcomes this cold data strategy brought about at Pfizer later. But let's get out of PowerPoint, show some software. So Anthony, while I open this up, we've said a variety of times, you work with a lot of enterprise customers. What do they really get excited about when you bring forward data solutions?
Well, the first thing they get, it's really I want to double click on what Matt said earlier and the fact that you can do all this in a single tool, right? You don't have to worry about figuring out what you want to archive, what's old, what's not, and then being able to take action on that. And as we're going to see very shortly, that's really powerful because AWS, a big part of our core tenets is taking away that undifferentiated heavy lifting from customers, and this really speaks to that. It makes it simple, it makes it easy, it makes it actionable, and there it is.
I love that. So I'm a visual person. I wanted to take the opportunity to open up Komprise, really kind of get out of PowerPoint. This is what we call our plan page. What I'm really going to show you guys today, and what I kind of want to walk through with you, Anthony, and Matt, I'd love your feedback. I'm going to kind of draw you guys in here because what's really important about the Komprise platform is that it's information, it's visibility, but it's actionable. So we're going to give you the analytics that you can take action on to get your data to the right place based on whatever strategy you're implementing at your organization, of which, Matt's cold data strategy is such a wonderful example. So I lovingly call this circle here our data donut. I'm going to show all my shares in plan. You can see that I have about 2.1 petabytes in this environment. This data donut works as intuitively as you can imagine. You can see the bluer the data, the colder it is, the redder the data, the hotter it is. So I can see just by eye, over 50% of my environment hasn't been accessed in over a year. If I want to follow the Pfizer rules of 2 years, you can see 13% of my data hasn't been accessed in 2 years, an additional 13% hasn't been accessed in over 3. And I can also see the very hot data, what's been accessed in the last 3 months, the last 6 months. Matt, I have to imagine that you've spent a lot of time driving down into the data donut that you see in your user interface.
Yes, I'm very familiar with the data donut, right? And I think it's a great visual representation of the data. I really like how it displays.
I love that. And really what we're trying to do is break down what can be really complex information into really easily digestible analytics that you can then take action upon to bring about whatever goal you have for your strategy. So you can see here some more analytics we provide. Space consumed by file type, file size, top owners, top groups, top directories, top shares. You can break all of this down by the number of files. You can download detailed CSV reports of everything. It's all about giving our customers as much information as possible so that they can make these decisions and move that data as simply as possible. We also have a little bit more of an intense analytic engine. We call it deep analytics. So here's where I can actually build custom queries that will surface data from all across my environment, whether it's on-prem, whether it's already been moved to Amazon S3, whether it's in my NAS vendor 1 or NAS vendor 2, if it's in Tokyo, if it's in Amsterdam, I'm going to be able to surface the files that relate to, for example, Project X. I can see that I have 25 terabytes of NFS data related to Project X. I can see the exact number of files. I can build out all these custom queries, all of these custom artifacts. I can view the top 1,000 files, again, download detailed CSVs, and I can do exactly the same for SMB. We've seen customers build out really robust, deep analytical plans. And Anthony, this is really where I see customers get excited. I love the visuals of our user interface, but this amount of power to take action against is really where I see the eyes light up when we are having these discussions. Do you have a lot of customers that are looking for this level of detail?
Absolutely. I think a lot of times we see customers when they have these NAS shares, for example, there's just so many different silos of data within a single share, and it's really tough for them to get their arms around it when they need to figure out, okay, we want to break this up by different lines of business. Do we even care about this data anymore? Just so being able to have this data and being able to have it to access it in this way, and then being able to search around, to filter for it, to tag the data, and just have that better understanding of how everything works. It's really powerful for them, and gets them. I see a lot of excitement when we talk about deep analytics.
I love that. Well, and now that we have this information, now that I have my Project X tag, now that I have my plan page built, this is really where it gets really interesting and where we're able to take really simple action. And you can see on the left-hand side here, I'm actually able to build a custom and automated plan. I'm going to be able to move this ticker. You'll see this purple line grow as I indicate if I want to take all my shares in plan, anything that's older than a month, I want archived to where? My AWS S3IA bucket. Let's get a little more conservative. We'll take 6 months. Let's go all the way down to Pfizer's rule, which is 2 years. I can custom build this, and it's going to run every 7 days or whatever schedule you want to set, so that I don't have to go back and maintain this. And Matt, you know, I have to imagine you've built quite a few of these. Is this what you're using to enact your cold data strategy on site?
Oh, absolutely. And really the automated fashion of how this works once you do the initial setup is fantastic.
I love that. Well, and you guys can see here, this is our archive function. We have a copy functionality. We have a really powerful migration engine. So we move data in a few different ways, but this plan is as easy as it seems. I click done editing, activate, and boom, that data begins to move, which is absolutely awesome. So let's actually get back to our story. Let's start breaking into the operational outcomes and sort of the future implications, what this cold data strategy has meant. Anthony, one last thing to kind of close out, because I know that you've shown some of your customers Komprise. What do they ask for the first time? You know, when they see Komprise, what's their first question?
Well, the first question is, how come you didn't tell me about this sooner? Because, I mean, typically when I talk to a customer about Komprise, it's usually they don't come in saying, "Hey, I want to learn more about Komprise." It's more of, "Hey, I've got a problem. I've got a data growth problem. I want to be able to have some sort of a hybrid strategy with my NAS data. I'm not ready to move it all yet to AWS. I need to be able to kind of have the best of both worlds. Is there a way to do this?" And just so happens there is. So it becomes a really interesting conversation at that point, to kind of to start walking through what they can actually do. And again, this is where we start seeing we're starting to see the eyes light up and start to think about some of the possibilities that Komprise can help them enable. But yeah, that's kind of what that's a typical engagement.
That's wonderful feedback. Awesome. That is great. I love it. And, you know, Matt, we've gotten to talk a few times about your cold data strategy. And you'll forgive me, this is one of my favorite quotes that you've said. A lot of times I come in and feel like it's Christmas morning. I love any holiday, so this is always, that was exciting for me to hear. But talk us through really the sentiment behind this and what it's actually looked like now that you've started to use this engine to drive this strategy forward.
Sure. Yeah, the specific Christmas comment really speaks to the automation. So, obviously, I like to say that we have about 10 years backlog of, of work to do. But once this is set up, as you showed before, and it takes careful planning and rollout and communication and things like that. So you get through that, that 10 years of backlog. But what's really great, what makes it feel like Christmas morning from time to time is that automation. Once you set that business rule, Komprise continues to enact, continues to analyze the data and moves more data out to cloud, based on the business rules that you set. So definitely there's been some lags in the project and we didn't maybe move as much data as we wanted to. And then all of a sudden, oh, there's a surprise, 2 or 3 or 10 terabytes, simply, because Komprise is doing its thing, enacting its automation and moving more data to cloud. So it's really been nice.
I love that. I'll take a gift of any kind, really.
As
Well,
well.
and let's talk about actually the business impact. Talk to us really through the business impacts that this cold data strategy has had. This is larger than just what you're doing in a data center. Talk us through the implications that it's had at Pfizer.
No, absolutely. I mean, really, my goal in digital is to win the digital race in pharma. And more importantly, for Pfizer, it's making breakthroughs that change people's lives. And really, if you look at what our storage spend was, it was, unnecessarily, high due to the fact that we didn't understand the profiles of the data. So really, from a business perspective, it lets us make kind of razor sharp business decisions on what to do with this data so we could reinvest in areas that's more important for the patients, to be quite frank.
Wow, I love that. That is so well said, Matt. And as we kind of look forward to that paints a really nice picture of the future. So tell me the future of your department's kind of cold data strategy with Komprise in place, and what's been the initial impact on your end users? You have researchers to answer to. What's their feedback been?
Yeah, well, I mean, my goal, right? So really to do this has been more of a cultural thing than not. I know when you speak to researchers, especially, they're very, hesitant to lose their data or lose visibility into their data. So really what we needed to do is build a culture where we used analytics, trusted analytics, and really, a main point to the success of the program is for those scientists not even to realize that the data is not there, right? So culturally, what we've done is we've proven that it's safe, right? The data is still there, it's still accessible, and really their recall of the data is so transparent they don't even realize they're recalling the data, and that really is the hallmark of this program being successful. What we plan on doing going forward is to do more of it, right? So now that we've seen that we could do this safely, have a successful financial outcome while still enabling the business, we want to be more aggressive with the cold data strategy. We've proven it works, proven the automation works, the recall works. So certainly we look at pushing that forward so we could reinvest into things that are more important. So 2 years now, can we get it to a year and a half, a year and 3/4 perhaps? And just continue to push that through and make very smart decisions about our data based on data analytics.
I'm excited to see where it goes. I really am. It's going to be an evolving animal, and it's going to have big impact at Pfizer. I'm really excited to see it. So questions, we've had quite a few questions come in here. So I'm actually just going to grab the first 5 or so, 4 or 5 that I see in here. I think that's about all we'll have time for. So the first of which, actually, Matt, it looks like this question is to you, and this relates really wonderfully back to this most previous slide, actually. Do you see your users, which for you guys are your researchers, wanting to search for data that is on Amazon S3 and using it there. So your data have, do you see your researchers wanting to search for data that's already been moved to AWS?
Oh, absolutely. I know in the, in our R&D community, they've been heavy users of S3. So having data out, out in the Amazon cloud has been really good. And the deep analytics will continue to pay dividends, over time, right? That's kind of how you future proof some of your use cases, by gathering as much data as you can and make it actionable. What I found, kind of surprising and exciting is that, you think people are going to throw their hands up about moving that, the data out and getting that analytics. But if anything, I've had more people ask me to accelerate their data movement as opposed to decelerate, right? So get it out to cloud faster, enable these analytics, and let people use this data out in the cloud. So it's been a very nice outcome.
We love to hear it, Anthony, don't we?
We do.
Yeah. Actually, Anthony, this next question is, I think actually would be better for you. It's sort of a Komprise question, but it talks about, does using Komprise change application workflows? And you're on site at these customers. Do those workflows change?
They don't, and that's a nice part about it. With the symbolic links, the workflows stay exactly as they need to, exactly as they did before Komprise was even talked about. So if your application is looking for files in a specific folder, it's still going to be there. They'll just be symbolic links that would point to Amazon S3. Same thing with user home directories, right? If it's a user home directory and somebody just likes to put a lot of log files in there for analysis and they just forget that they're even there, they're still there and they're still accessible. So they don't have to worry about, how am I going to get this? Where do I need to go now? Just helps keep it nice and simple for them. So, yeah.
I love that. Awesome. And oh, this one's an easy one. I'm going to take this one. If we want to try Komprise, do you offer an assessment, and how long does that take? So yes, we at Komprise, we do offer assessments, and we can get those done, in as little as 2 weeks. They're really simply as fast as our customers can move. Our engines and our parallel architecture make it all run very quickly. So it's more dependent upon what the outcome needs to be, how quickly we can connect with you. So we absolutely run assessments and we can move them along really quickly. So one final question, Matt. What advice do you have for others that are looking to build out a cold data strategy and are in those early stages? What's their first step?
Oh, know your data. So the first part of that, comprises tool set. That analytics is key. Really, you need to understand your business case and really understand what the impact of doing this would be, right? So that's really the advice I would give is go into this, with your eyes wide open and start to learn about the data you're hosting.
I love it. Awesome. Well, we have a ton more questions in this questions box. I apologize to anyone we didn't get to. We will follow up with you afterwards in email. We have a couple more just informational slides here. This is information on the Komprise and AWS collaboration. We're really highly integrated, so you can look on here to just kind of learn about how Komprise and AWS have integrated their technologies and how well we work with that platform. Here are some places where you can reach out for more information about AWS storage, Komprise, Pfizer, even trying AWS for free. And that should do it for us. So Matt, Anthony, thank you for your time and expertise on this webinar. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to everyone in our audience for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful time, and we hope to hear from you soon. Bye, Anthony. Bye, Matt.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.